Hello, geometry class. This is Mrs. O'Donnell here, recording 8.03, volume of prisms and cylinders. All right, let's go ahead and get right to it. So our goal for today is to develop conceptual understanding of how to calculate the volume of prisms and cylinders. You can see our agenda. I do have the daily form linked there. And of course, you're always welcome to come to my office hours. All right, so this is called You Pour, I Choose. Which glass contains more soda? So we want to think what information do we need to know? Check it out. All right, so which glass contains more soda? Go ahead, take a minute, pause the video, figure out what you want your official guess to be, and make sure you're really thinking about why, because remember that reasoning is so important. Okay, so pause the video now. All right. So now you've probably unpaused the video. Let's check out those answers. Let's see if this video will play. There we go. All right, so as you can see, it was the taller glass had 8 ounces and the shorter glass only had 3 ounces of water. All right, so today we're talking about volume. The volume of a solid is the number of unit cubes inside the figure. Okay, so recall that a prism is a polyhedron with 2 parallel congruent faces called bases. The other faces of the prisms are called lateral faces. An altitude or height of a prism is a perpendicular line segment that joins the planes of the bases. Volume is always measured in cubic units, right? So you want to think now we're getting into that third dimensions, okay? So cubic units, all right? Here's, again, a refresher in some of that vocabulary. Your lateral face, okay, are the faces around your shape that attach your 2 bases, your 2 congruent bases. And that's really important to think about because sometimes our shape is not sitting on its base, but sometimes our shape will be sort of tipped over, sitting on the lateral face, like you see over here, right? Our 2 congruent bases are the parallelograms that you see, and then we've got our lateral faces, which is what this prism is setting on. All right, so how do we calculate volume of any prism? Okay, so the volume of any prism is the area of the base times the height of the prism. Okay, so we know in order to find the area of the base, we have several different formulas, right? It depends on the shape of your base. So for example, here we have a rectangular prism, right? So my base is a rectangle. So I'm going to take the area of my base, so length times width, and then I would multiply it by the height of my prism, okay, to figure out the total volume of this rectangular prism. I would do the exact same thing with this triangular prism, except instead of doing length times width to find the area of the base, which is a triangle, I would use that area formula for a triangle, 1/2 base times height, okay, to find the area of the base, and then multiply that by the height of my prism. All right, so for example, find the volume of the prism that is being shown. So let's check it out. Looks like we have a rectangular prism. Okay, so I'm going to do my area of my base, so length times width here. Area of my base is length times width, which is 9 times 7, and then I'm going to take that and multiply by the height of my prism, and the height of my prism here is 13. So I'm going to do 9 times 7 times 13. And you can just grab a calculator. We know 9 times 7 is 63, but then multiplying that by 13 sometimes is tricky to do in your head. Yes, Joey, I'm talking to you. And then that equals 819. We want to make sure we don't forget the label. So 819 cubic centimeters. Okay, not too bad. So this idea of finding volume is really founded in Cavaliers Principle, which is if two solids have equal heights and the cross sections formed by every parallel plane parallel to the bases of both solids have equal areas, then the two solids have equal volume, right? So if you check out this coin stack, right? Maybe you did this when you were a little kid. You had like a little stack of coins at a restaurant and you kind of played with it a little bit, pushing it to the side, kind of seeing what this, how far could you bend the stack of coins before it like tipped over. That's what's happening here, right? The volume of the coins doesn't change just because you've sort of changed the shape of your figure, right? The coins represent the slices or the cross sections in the figure, and each coin is still the same size, creating the same volume. Let's check out this video. So they're showing you the cross sections. Oh, we're not going into volume of a sphere just yet. So we'll get there. But I just like that quick clip to show you Cavaliers Principle. Let's see here. Okay, so next thing we want to do is we're going to actually apply it, right? So let's try a couple. Find the volume of the prism shown. So again, you can take a minute, pause the video, try and work it out on your own, and then unpause to check your answers. All right, so if you're just coming back, the volume of this rectangular prism, we're going to do area of our base, which would be 3 times 5 times the height of our prism, which is 3. So 3 times 5 is 15, and 15 times 3, that's going to give us 45. We want to make sure to include our unit, which is cubic feet. Okay. And if you didn't already, go ahead and pause the video to find the volume of your triangular prism. If you're already done, let's check it out together, right? So the volume, first thing you're going to do is find the area of your base. Our base, even though it's not sitting on it, our base is this triangle. So it's going to be 1/2 times 3 times 4, right? And then we're going to do that times the height of our prism, which is 7. Okay, so 1/2 times 3 times 4. I'm going to do 1/2 times 4, which gives me 2 times 3 times 7. A little easier numbers to work with in my head. 2 times 3 gives me 6. Times 7 is 42. And of course, I don't want to forget my label. I'm going to label this cubic meters. Okay. All right, so next we're finding the volume of this pentagonal prism, right, because it's got 5 sides, right? Our congruent bases have 5 sides. And we're going to also find the volume of this cylinder. Okay, so go ahead and pause the video now. Work to find the volume of both shapes, and then unpause to check your answers. All right, so if you're just unpausing your video, let's check this out together. So you may not, off the top of your head, know the formula for area of a pentagon. We're lucky here because this pentagon is a regular pentagon. So we can split it into equal, oops, that was a bad job. I'm going to redraw that line for you guys. We can split it into 5 congruent triangles and use a formula we do know to help us find the area of that base, right? So we know the formula for area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height, right? So we would do, in this case, 1/2 times, it looks like our base of that triangle is going to be 6, and the height of that triangle is 4.13. And then we're going to have to take that and multiply by 5, right? So that's just to find the area of that pentagon, okay? And then you're going to take that area of that pentagon and multiply by, right, area of the base times the height of the prism, so times 5. All right, and you can grab your calculator, crunch these numbers, and hopefully what you should get is 30975.75. I'm going to sneeze, excuse me. I paused the video just in time. You guys missed the sneeze. Okay, so 309.75 cubic inches, right? And then we can do the same thing for our cylinder, right? We want to find the area of our base times the height of our cylinder to find the volume of that cylinder. Okay, so remember to find the area of a circle, you're going to use pi r squared. Let's see here, I'm going to pick a different color. We're going to do pi times radius squared. So I'm going to do pi times 4 squared. And then I'm going to multiply that by the height of my cylinder, which is 8. Okay, I can grab my calculator. I know I'm going to do a 4 squared, which is 16, and then times 8 gives me 128. And then I can leave it as 128 pi to give a precise answer, or I could take that and multiply by pi and round my answer. So my rounded answer would be 402.12 if I just round to the hundredths place. And that I want to make sure and write that with my label, cubic centimeters. Okay, so that would be my volume for that cylinder, right? It's always the area of your base times the height of your prism or your cylinder. All right, so this last video is just kind of fun. It's popcorn picker. Which container will hold more popcorn? You want to think about what kind of information do you need to know. All right, so go ahead and pause the video, take a minute, guess which one do you think will hold more popcorn? Sort of the short, fat one or the tall, skinny one? All right, let's check out our answers. Which one? Which one has it?